Hi guys, welcome to the MMA UK BJJ show. Obviously, my name's Stoomboy, as always. Episode 25 today with Chris Fensom. Chris is a black belt under, well, what would you say? Would he under Hodger or under Mauricio?
I'd say none of them. So
it's under Kev. Sorry, under Kev.
yeah. So you got it's all lineage, right? So Mauricio taught Roger, Roger taught Kev, and Kev taught me. I've been lucky enough that a lot of the time with the lineage, people don't get to kind of train up, but I've trained with Mauricio a lot, and I've got to train with Roger quite a lot actually, and then obviously Kev himself. But I would always put Kev first, you know. But unless I'm trying to sound like seminar, and then I put Roger first.
Definitely. So black belt under Kev. Obviously, Chris been a black belt for just over 3 years. I think it was October, November 2017. Got your black belt. So
yeah, I don't think it counts because I haven't rolled in like a year, like most people, or like hardly. So we're only called it 2 years. I won't ask for my degree on my belt for a little while. I'll be patient on that one.
Yeah, because that degree should be coming up around about now. So so 2 years, 2 years of black belt. So yeah, we're going to chat to Chris obviously about. Chris has got an extensive martial arts experience, as we're going to find out. So as I said, he's done quite a bit. So we're going to talk a bit about that. So absolute honour to have you on, Chris. How are you doing this great, beautiful Sunday afternoon?
It is a nice sunny afternoon, and normally I'm trying to be quite a balance with my life. So I try and keep weekends very family orientated. I've got 4 young children, and it's actually, I managed to ditch the wife in the park with all the kids to come and talk fighting with you, which is brilliant. And she even looked after the kids when I got up this morning and watched last night's UFC. So like today is a good day. Terrible. Like, did you watch the UFC? I don't want to ruin it for you.
I didn't watch it. No, I got the results. Obviously, put Facebook on and you get all the results. So I kind of know obviously some of the kind of talking points and stuff like that. So.
I thought the obviously I'm a huge fan of. I like all the commentators on the UFC use. Like I admire all of them. I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan, but I thought they were pretty terrible with their bias in the main event. It was like, you know, Yan gets a takedown and they're like, look at Adesanya's breakfall. Look how he didn't take too much damage. Wasn't he good? And Blachowicz beat him, like outstruck him every single round, landed heavier shots every single round, and all they were talking about was the fact that Adesanya's feints looked really good. And I think the bias, and sometimes I found doing commentating, sometimes you feed off the other commentator and you kind of reinforce each other's opinion, and you have to. It can be very hard to be objective, and I think they all like Adesanya as well, and they all want to see him fight John Jones and all that stuff. But I found it really cringy and painful to watch because I could see that they were miles off. And then when the scorecard came back, all the judges had given it 4 rounds to Blachowicz, and they were surprised. And they're like, "I want to see the scorecard. I can't believe that." And I'm like, "That's like, it was pretty obvious that he won 4 rounds, and even the one he lost, it was really close. Like I could have, if someone had given all 5, I wouldn't have been at all surprised." But anyway, that was my frustrating morning.
Definitely. I mean, I kind of thought Yan was going to win it. I had a good idea he was going to win it. I mean, to come in, I mean, obviously we saw the Adesanya coming in. What was he, about 190 something pounds? Coming in for a 205. So, I mean, Adesanya mentioned it. I saw the interview after the fight, and he mentioned that potentially the weight could have been an issue. But
exploded. The problem was, like, you're a fairly heavy guy. I am as well. I'm not trying to insult you, right? I'm in the 100K club. I think you're about the same, right?
I'm the same, yeah.
So, as you know, being on top when you're heavy, it's a lot easier than being on the bottom. Yes. So, Blachowicz is great. He's got a great pressure top game. And he was putting himself in half guard, not side control, just to take the space away. And then just not giving him the underhook. And it's a bit of a shame because I thought Adesanya I saw those videos where he's rolling at Atos, and it's hard to tell just how good someone is. And previously he's defended floor situations really well. But I thought this time he looked a bit ropey off his back. And all right, he's giving up 10 pounds, 20 pounds, but we've all rolled with people where we're giving up 20 pounds. I could give up 20 pounds and probably still get on my side from the bottom of half guard. And everyone's like, oh yeah, but you're getting hit, but they can only hit you with the one arm, right? So the one, they need to fight the underhook the same side you're fighting, so you got to cover the bicep on the other side. And you should, he's tired, but yeah, I thought maybe a little bit of I mean, his skill levels grappling to striking is always going to be he's such a better striker. But I thought it was a big hole in his game, and it's the blueprint on how to beat him now as well, which is probably quite frustrating for him.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of ruined a lot of stuff, because obviously there was the talk of the John Jones fight and stuff like that. So it's kind of put that on a back burner as well.
But that's what I like about the UFC. They can't, like WWE, they just build it up to and even boxing, they just build it up to the biggest name fights, the biggest name, and it's not it doesn't feel real. Obviously WWE, but boxing doesn't feel real because you don't really know who the best guy is, because they hide these guys away so they don't fight. They're never in any real danger. Whereas with the UFC, they have champions that don't sell great pay-per-views, but they're just the best guys. And that's they protect the whole sport overall and keep it legit. So I'm happy with that. And John can go fight at heavyweight, and that'll be super entertaining anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So, but I've still to see the fights. So I did catch up. I knew that I heard about the bias and the commentating.
It was so painful.
Fight, so it'll be interesting to see. So, I mean, for you then, I mean, obviously lockdown. I mean, how's lockdown been treating you?
Oh, I'm loving it, man. 4 kids at home, no school, no jiu-jitsu. It's brilliant. No, so do you know? I think so. A few years ago, I was kind of close to losing my business, and I had a bit of not like depression or mental breakdown or whatever, but I had this kind of like slightly dark time in my life, and I realized maybe I was a bit mentally weak, or so attached to I'm an instructor or I'm this, that, and the other, and that's like my identity that I kind of lost without it. So I kind of I was like, how can I the same way you before you injure a joint, like prehab, right? You go, I want to make my knee stronger before I break them. I'm not going to fix them. I'm going to worry about it before. So mental version of that. So I started reading various religious texts, which kind of didn't really appeal to me. And then Stoicism. So Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and they were onto something about kind of mental resilience. So the Stoics would look at something and go, you've got to figure out, can you do something about it or can't you, right? If you can do something about it, go fucking do it, right? If you can't do anything about it, accept it and move on and just do what you can, right? So I couldn't do anything about lockdown. Obviously, none of us can. But can I look after myself and stay healthy? Can I use the time to bond with my children better and teach all 4 of them to ride a bike, right? Yeah. Can I read more books? Can I study a foreign language every day? Can I just spend more time with my wife? Because normally I work every single night teaching, and jiu-jitsu people, we can be a little bit selfish on that front, very selfish on that front. So although it's been very frustrating, and I've had a few dark days like everyone else where you just want to throw something against the wall, I've just tried to get the best out of the situation. And one of the things that's been really nice is just like you guys, Jim, a lot of my students have kept supporting me through this. And, you get to really appreciate that. And people have just been so nice, as I have for my instructor as well. And the ones that haven't been able to do that, they've been, we will be back and we want to support you, or thank you for everything you've done. So especially now, it feels like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm finding the whole experience, I'm trying to take the positives from it, as opposed to kind of just worry, feel all depressed. And I think as jiu-jitsu people, we can be we're not rolling, life's over. But there is a bit more to life than rolling.
Yeah.
Not a lot more, but a little bit more. Yeah. How about yourself? How have you coped without being on the mat?
Do you know, I've been fortunate. I'm able to work from home. So I work in an office. So I've been able to do that from home. So at the moment, this room that I'm in just now, this is my everything at the moment. So this is my obviously office. This is where I eat food. This is where I obviously not sleep in the bedroom, but pretty much this is my office. This is everything at the moment. So in regards to training, I've done no training whatsoever. And the reason I've not done training is, one, I like to be in the gym.
I know that feeling. Yeah,
I'm one of these people. I need to have, if I'm training, I need to have people with me. And going into the gym and having the banter when we're rolling about and Do you know what I mean? Like, when I roll with people, I like to talk to them as I'm rolling. No, like, just
friendly talking or trash talking. Always talking.
a bit of both. So, and it's just the way I am. And I'd say the guys in the gym, they do the same back to me. Whenever we roll, that's my thing. So for me to be able to do that in the house, I mean, my son trains. My son's 23, so he does train, but he's very not unmotivated, but he doesn't want to do training in the house the same as me, because again, we need to be in the gym. So in regards to training, I've done absolutely nothing. So I'm looking forward to April the 26th coming back and getting back to the gym. In fact, I'm telling you why, when we did open in August last year, I did go in for a couple of classes, but it was with grappling dummies. And do you know what I mean? You can't really trash talk a grappling dummy. So.
Well, they never tap. That's the problem. The best you're going to get is a draw if you go sub only. So,
but no, I went and did a couple of classes, and you know, it was good. It was good. Obviously, going in, seeing the guys. It was limited people there because obviously we were doing classes like 8 or 10 people. So, it was good. But as I say, for me, do you know what I mean? I need to be in amongst people and training and stuff like that. So
I get that, and I think that's what I've missed the most. Is more I've missed the, like rolling, whatever. But I've done it for so long. Like a little break's okay, but it's the social aspect of it, and I think my favorite part of jiu-jitsu, honestly, is the sitting around talking shit afterwards. Like you got that endorphins, you've done a bit of bonding. Hopefully, I've tapped a few people out if it's gone well that day, and then you just sit around talking rubbish, and that's like I love that bit. That's the good
bit.
Definitely.
Now we do. I mean, we're in. As I said, it started off in the group chat. We were slagging each other in the group chat, and then everybody started playing Call of Duty. So we were on Call of Duty. We did a Sunday.
People.
We did a Sunday night at Call of Duty where the guys went on, and it was basically just a couple of hours of just slagging each other off.
You got to start doing belts and stripes in Call of Duty now. It's got to be the.
So we did that, and then actually we moved away from that. We had a big football game as well where everybody turned up, and it was just basically slagging each other off, and it ended up with a couple of the guys rolling at the end of the match, the end of the football match, and then man, it was just anywhere where there was competition, we'd be looking for it, and we were like, right, everybody on this, let's do this. But April the 26th, we'll all be back. I'd say non-combat. So I think we'll non-combat until about July, I think, June or July. And then we'll obviously see what happens then. They'll obviously drop down the tiers. So,
how have you found talking about jiu-jitsu? Because you've done quite a few podcasts. How have you found talking about jiu-jitsu while you can't do it? Is that like seeing naughty pictures without being able to do anything? You know what
I mean? Do you know what? This is probably one thing where I've been able to do this that's got me by. Obviously, being able to talk to people, and as I said, I've been able to talk to everybody I've had on. Been an absolute fantastic guest. We've been able to talk. Everybody's had a great story. Everybody's had a great journey. And
I'm going to prove this wrong. I'm going to be the exception. That I listened to your episode with Carl Fisher, and I loved it. I instantly added him as a friend on Facebook, and I sent him a message. We're going to meet up and train when we can.
Well, that said, that
Carl, it's so cool.
Carol put a message there, afternoon, gents, just to let you know you've got at least one person.
Yes! I sent him a message, got his advice on how to deal with you. He gave me some good advice.
No, listen, Carol was brilliant. I mean, Carol, we're going to get a second episode with Carol. Because obviously when we do it, we like to keep it to maybe around about an hour, just over an hour. As you can probably, whenever anybody listens to a podcast, if it goes like 2, 3, 4 hours or whatever, which I've seen some podcasts, then people get turned off. So that's why I always keep it just maybe around about an hour. Some have went, like I think Scott Ramsey, we had Scott on, and Scott's went on for about an hour and 40 minutes or something.
I love talking. That's my goal then, right? Hour and 40. I can do it.
So being able to talk about jiu-jitsu, even though I'm not doing it, I'm not getting in the gym, has been absolutely fantastic. As I said, some of the guys, I'd say all of the guests have been absolutely fantastic, and they love talking about jiu-jitsu as well. I mean,
yeah.
When you talk to another jiu-jitsu person, and I mean, you're just talking about jiu-jitsu, you're talking about each other's journeys, and yeah, I mean, I love it, absolutely love it. I used to do this before I started doing anything like this. Whenever I went somewhere, like to competitions or to maybe other gyms, training at other gyms, that's what I would do. I would go and speak to people that I'd never spoke to before and just talk about jiu-jitsu. And it's one thing, jiu-jitsu guys, I mean, we don't get the chance to do this very often. So when we do it, we love to talk about it. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, there's something about you roll with someone and I feel like you kind of, it's that instant comfort thing because you've let them, if I'm close enough to give someone a hug, it like implies some kind of intimacy or whatever. Rapport would be the right word, not intimacy. I'm getting romantic on you, but some rapport with them, and then you can know a lot about someone straight away by rolling with someone. Like if someone rolls with me, they're going to instantly know that I'm not a particularly aggressive person, right? And that I'm probably a cold, callous bastard, right? So and you can know someone so much, and you get past all the BS, and then you don't know if they drive a Maserati or they're a doctor or they're an intellectual or they're a trench digger. Like you don't know. You're just in a gi, and is it a cool guy? And yeah, it breaks down all those social barriers. Yeah, I love it. It's cool. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's always that funny thing where they say that I don't recognize my friends by their full name. I can tell you who they are. Like his name's Chris, and he's a black belt. And that's all I need to know. Yeah. So,
what belt are you, Stuart? If you don't mind asking.
So I'm a blue belt 4 tabs. So
yes, strong.
I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 7 years. But what I done was around about 4 years ago, I moved gyms. Okay, so I was under Gracie Baja in Glasgow, and then moved gyms to Marcus Nardini.
I think you're a Creonte then. Creonite? I never know how to say it properly. Creonte. Yeah, so I'm a proud Creonte as well. So like, I wear it as a badge of honor. I'm like, I train anywhere. I'm a jiu-jitsu whore. Like,
yes. Well, that's what I did. So about 4 years ago, I moved gyms. I think about 3-4 years ago, and because I did that, obviously, when you go to another gym, you start at the beginning of your belt. All right, so I was a blue belt at the time when I moved over, and I wasn't far off my purple belt at that time. But then obviously I knew moving gyms, you're going to have to go back to the start of the blue belt. So, which is what I did. And then obviously lockdown came, and I more than likely would have got my purple belt last year. Potentially, I was possibly going to get it, but then lockdown came along and just ruined everything.
You could have got your technical purple belt with the grapple dummy. That could have been the goal.
Yeah, so I could have done that. But yeah, so 7 years. That's been good, fantastic 7 years. I mean, I've got to train with a lot of people that I wanted to train with. I mean, Hodger, we got the chance to train with Hodger, Rodolfo Vieira, train with Draculino. So a lot of Kieron Gracie, Philippe De La Monica. So there was a lot of people that I wanted to train with that I did get the chance. And then obviously once we come out the lockdown and we get back to normal, then I'll be getting out there again and training with some more people. So
the belt system, I find it it's very useful for me as a business tool, right? Because I can sell privates and say privates with a Roger Gracie black belt, right? But I have this slightly love-hate relationship because often people will get frustrated or quit because they feel like they've been overlooked for promotions or strikes or whatever, or he got it before me or he got it after. And like if I love playing football, which I genuinely detest, but if I did like playing football, I wouldn't play out of football on a Sunday because I wanted a black shirt one day. I just do it because I liked it, right? And you got this extra like layer of baggage on top. And then also, I'm in my mid-30s now and I can feel myself slowing down a little bit, but it's more that I've got a balanced training and lifestyle, so I can't there's some purple belts to train with that training twice a day every day like savages, and it's like I'm expected to beat them because I wear a bit of black cloth around my waist, but like the belt is just like I'm never really sure how important the belt is. Then you see Khabib in a white belt messing up everyone, and there's lots of other guys like that, and I'm very proud to wear my black belt, and I got the picture on the wall of me getting it from Roger, Mauricio and Kev, and But it's a slightly frustrating thing as well. And there's people like yourself that, you know, you're not really a blue belt, are you? If you came visiting my gym and you were a blue belt, I'd be like, what the hell is this? So you never really know. Like, what? I don't know. Like, part of me thinks maybe if we just got rid of the belts and it would simplify things and people would just train because they liked it and stick around longer.
Definitely. Well, I have seen that. I mean, people come and go all the time because I'd say for exact reasons like you said. I mean, people maybe if this guy got promoted to an extra tab or extra belt, why did I not get mine? But
yeah,
you know, I'd say that I'm at a point. I kind of know how belts are given out for various reasons. Okay, so they're maybe not given out just for how you are on the mats. It could be time served. It could be how you are in competitions. Sometimes it could be a confidence boost. You're at that level, so let's give you the belt to give you a bit more confidence to then push on. So there's a whole load of reasons for getting belts. So as I say, for me, when I get the belt, I do get messages. I mean, a lot of people message me like, if you've not been promoted yet, how are you still a blue belt? Do you know what I mean? Like, some people are... one of the guys, in fact, the Hodger Gracie guy, Drew Sullivan. I fought Drew in a competition back in 2016. It was the British. We ended up in the final together, so we'd fought each other. I'm 5'4". Drew's definitely not 5'4". So Drew, I think, is about 6'8" or something like that. So we'd fought each other. It ended up 2-2. He'd won by an advantage, and we became good friends. And then obviously Drew. We were both blue belts at that time. Drew's now a brown belt. I'm still a blue belt. So, but do you know what? A belt's a belt. As you said, a belt, it's only there to hold your gi closed. It'll come off during the roll. So nobody...
This is true.
So nobody will know exactly what belt you are. And people get intimidated as well. I mean, when you go into gyms and people look at like higher belts and get very, very intimidated and think, oh, I don't want to roll with him because he's a blue belt, a purple, brown, or black, or whatever.
Or the opposite. I'm on holiday. I want to just jump in the local gym and get a few rounds in and say make friends. Yeah. And they've made a queue to murder me, and I'm like, wait a minute. I had a couple of beers yesterday. You know, I've been out of the sun all day. Let's take it easy, guys.
Definitely. So the belt. I'd say the belt. It's not a true reflection in a lot of cases of the level that you're at. So, and
I want to give advice to people as well from an instructor's perspective. If you're I feel like in jiu-jitsu there's this like weird, not everywhere, but slightly culty looking up to the top thing. And I kind of universally reject it. I don't like being called professor, right? I don't want I'm happy to be friends with everyone, but I'm just your friend and I'm happy to give you advice. And I won't give you any life advice other than jiu-jitsu, right? I'm not sitting under a waterfall meditating, right? I just mess up as much as everyone else. But you have to, I think that instructors have got this round the wrong way. And there's this weird thing where you're not supposed to ask your coach why you haven't had a belt or a stripe or whatever. But I work for my students. If there's if they feel they've been overlooked, they should come and I'm happy they come and talk to me, and they'd be like, "Well, or do it. You can do it in a polite way." And I think I may have had the same conversation. I sat with my coach and went, "Okay, I feel like I'm a bit stagnant. What can I do to get better?" And maybe they turn around and be like, "I think you should compete. You're just relying on your A game. You're not opening yourself up." They give you some advice, or just be direct and be like, "I feel like I should be getting near my belt. Like, have you got any advice for me?" And then, because as instructors, often if you've got a big school as well, like I kind of overlook 3 different schools, I can occasionally overlook a white belt that's going to a blue belt, and I go, "Oh, you trained that long? Sorry, I didn't realize. I should have given you the belt. You're awesome!" Like, and then it's just, but people are too polite to ask, and it drives me mad. I'm like, no, your instructor works for you. You don't have to suck up to them, right? I work for my students. They don't work for me, right? Yeah. I know I used to have karate teachers that were like, "Oh, you want your belt? Come and clean my car." That's not my style, right? I wish it was my style. My car's filthy, but like everyone out there that trains, if you want a promotion, just go in life. Anything you want, just go grab it by the balls, right? Maybe you look stupid and get embarrassed, but like, just go for it.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I mean, my coach as well. My coach always says whenever he's in class and he gives out belts, and he'll always say after it, he'll be like, look, anybody that feels that they maybe should have got the belt or got a tab or whatever, just come and speak to me, and what we'll do is we'll discuss what you need to do to get it. Because at the end of the day, I mean, every coach is going to have a certain things that you need to be able to do to get that belt. And I mean, as my coach is very similar to you. As I said, very open. Come and talk to me. Nobody does, because, as I said, it's a bit of a subject that nobody likes to talk about. So
it drives me mad. I'm your coach. I'm here to help you get better. I love it when my students come over and they ask me questions. Like, questions are good. I think as instructors we like them, right? And then it's the question is, if it's a good question and it stumps you a little bit, and you go, let me get back to you on that. And they're like, can you teach me this reverse, berimbolo entry from blah, blah. I'm like, give me a week. I will teach you that, but I'll come back to you on that. But people are too nervous to ask their instructors. I'm like, you're paying that man's mortgage. You're paying him every month, right? He's got to give you a service. And part of that is a little bit of one-to-one coaching should be in there. Yeah. And I think sometimes the approach of, I think maybe this comes a little bit from Brazil. So I went to Rio, did some training, and I noticed a lot of the gyms there, and some of the UK guys are like this. The instructor comes to the middle, teaches, goes sit on the side, plays on their phone, chats to their mate. Everyone looks bored, comes back, teaches another slightly random technique. And it's like, no. As instructors, we have a job to do. We should be going around correcting everyone, giving everyone individual feedback, even if they're doing it great. And I like to, when pre-COVID, physical contact, slap them on the back and go, you did that perfectly. That was ace, right? Yeah. So that I hope everyone in that class, every single lesson has had at least one piece of one-to-one interaction with me. Like, maybe it's rolling or something cool, but at least just put your hand there, like, change that up. And I think the jiu-jitsu community needs to be a bit more professional. I mean, you're seeing it with some of the other gyms, and like the rise of Danaher and those guys is because they don't train in the kind of traditional Brazilian way. They're like, it's much more structured and sports science, which is, I think we need to all adopt a little bit.
Yeah. Let me ask you the big question then. So, Flow Grappling are doing a documentary at the moment. American Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I had my talking points. I had notes. I had that same conversation for you. All right, yeah, carry on.
Obviously, so I don't know if you've seen the documentary. I think it's about 20 minutes long. And basically, you've got a lot of American Jiu-Jitsu guys, who are now saying Keenan Cornelius is kind of leading the way at the moment. Jake Shields talked about it. And they're saying that it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Americans have made it so much better. They've changed the game. Like, your world champions, a lot of Americans. You've got, rise of Gordon Ryan and things like that. Yeah. So should it still be called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Because at the end of the day, and the way the Americans are saying is, Brazilians stole it from Japan.
Yep.
And now what's happening is Americans are taking it from Brazil. So
I mean, in a way, what the Americans done. So Eddie Bravo did this first. He's like, shit, we're losing. We changed the rules to suit us, right? So all these Brazilians are they're all just thrashing everyone in gi tournaments and continue to do. It's still like 90% Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champions. Yeah. So the Americans made a different sport, right? They made submission only grappling or sub wrestling or whatever it is. And then they're the best at their sport, right? Which is why the UK, we should be best at football, but we're terrible. But that's a broader point. But thing is, like, one of the cool things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I always liked was the fact that we had all these different rule sets. Even more, like, now we have sub-only heel hooks and stuff, but when I first started, there was even more so. You'd have tournaments where you started back-to-back on the floor, like judo style of rules, and then you'd have somewhere you had a limited time on the floor, or, you could, and then combat Jiu-Jitsu and other stuff. And so you're going to have these slight variations of style that go towards it, but the whole thing of having this is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu makes no sense to me whatsoever, because it's Greek wrestling mixed with Iranian wrestling, which is Russian wrestling, which is mixed with Russian leg locks, mixed with loads of Japanese submissions, mixed with, there's like catch wrestling from the UK somewhere, right? Mixed with loads of a random German one, and then the origins of all those are some weird Indian martial art, and then kind of kung fu from that, and it's just got to the point now where I feel no single country can claim it. Let's just call it submission wrestling and be done with it. And so my club, my logo says Fensom Jiu-Jitsu, right? So if you learn from me, you learn my kind of style, which is putting together everything I've learned. And I call it Fensom Jiu-Jitsu. And I dropped the Brazilian thing because I'm not Brazilian. A large percentage of the stuff I doesn't teach is Brazilian. The Brazilian bit was the close guard. That was their big innovation from what I can understand of history. And changing the rule set to give you a long time on the floor, right? And a huge innovation. And like they've proven it with the UFC and so on. But we've evolved like beyond that. And you're not seeing a lot of close guard anymore. You're not seeing a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're just doing submission wrestling. And that's and I think keeping it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu might stilt the progress of it. Neil, you're now seeing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools in America that don't allow you to compete because their Jiu-Jitsu is too important or self-defensy, or they don't waste time doing berimbolos. They do real Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or whatever it is. So let's just call it submission wrestling. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, the Brazilian bit, like they were never picky about. I do karate where you have to know terminology. I have to know a shed load of Japanese words, and we have to bow and do Japanese traditions. Apart from in a tournament, people go in combache. There's no other Brazilian bit in it. What do you like? People go like, whoa, like some random Portuguese words thrown in. And they everyone shakes hands like they do in Brazil when you walk in the room. But that's about it. Like I can't see much of a point in being Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But then the second you say that, people hate you. But then American Jiu-Jitsu is just as stupid. Because the Americans stole everything from everyone else anyway. Submission wrestling. I just want it to be called, submission wrestling. We'll call it submission wrestling. Keep the belts if you want it. You can do gi, you can do no gi, you can do 10th planet, you can do it with slaps, you can do it as part of MMA, and it's all just submission wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, they did. I mean, there was a lot of Brazilians came out and said, no, they're very angry that it's some people are calling it American Jiu-Jitsu, and then there was obviously the Americans saying, well, we've added in different things like American wrestling, and we've made it better. Certainly the submission-only side of things. Obviously,
which is exactly what the Brazilians did to the Japanese and recorded Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So they can't really complain, can they?
And then you had other people like Rafael Lovato Jr. Said, for him, it's just jiu-jitsu. It's not Brazilian. It's not American. It's just jiu-jitsu. So, and then he was saying, well, I mean, he said that why label it? Why label it one or the other? Why not just jiu-jitsu? That's what it is. When anybody asks you, what do? You do jiu-jitsu. And then when they asked you more about, what's jiu-jitsu? Then you can go into the terminology. Well, it was Brazilian jiu-jitsu and so on and so on. So
the Brazilian bit just makes it cooler though, because you say jiu-jitsu, like people that know think you're fanning about with a samurai sword, like and a bow and arrow, pretending to be a samurai running into battle. But you say Brazilian jiu-jitsu to a martial artist, and especially if you can say you're a highish a belt, you do get that kind of instant respect for it. But let's just drop the Brazilian at some point. Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to get a horrible email from Mr. Gracie from that.
I mean, it was a great topic. I mean, as I say, when I watched it, I mean, I fell into the trap. It was on Flow Grappling, so I registered for Flow Grappling, and Flow Grappling, as a lot of people know, charged the full amount of money. So they charged me £114 for a 20-minute documentary. I was like, what? Fucking £114. So
that's a good documentary. It's got to be good.
Listen, I got the money back. Or I got the money back minus 1 month. So
talking about the rise of Danaher and the change of rule sets, what do you think of the inclusion of all these leg locks and people that are probably going to all be pretty banged up in a few years with sore knees?
Yeah, I mean, what you talked about in IBJJF?
So now no gi IBJJF, you can do heel hooks. I don't think at Masters, which might save me, but I like heel hooks, so I'll just jump in the adults. But so what do you think of it?
Do you know what? It's just an evolution of the game, is it? It's an evolution of what we do. I mean, it happens all the time. There's a move, and then everybody concentrates on one move. It could be 1 year that everybody's doing arm bars, and the next year everybody's doing rear naked chokes. At the moment, it just seems to be heel hooks and feet stuff. So having it in, I mean, IBJJF are a bit behind the times not having it in, because as in most other ones, you've been able to do heel hooks and leg locks and stuff like that, knee bars and so on. So IBJJF, I think, are just a bit behind the times. Having it in, I mean, it's going to, I mean, as the IBJJF, when they start eventually doing competitions over here, whether it be London, the Euros or whatever, there's going to be a lot of people going to get injured. I mean, but that's the thing about your training. You know yourself, you're not just training to do the move. You're training to protect yourself against the move, so how to get out of it and things like that safely.
And when you're done, when to tap, when to
I mean, as I said, at the end of the day, it's about tapping. I mean, I mean, don't fuck about with knee bars and heel hooks and stuff. I mean, as soon as it's on, I mean, once a heel hook's on, it's on, right? There's only one thing's going to happen, and so tap quickly when it comes to that. So, but then that's the stubborn thing about a lot of jiu-jitsu guys. I mean, we are quite stubborn, especially certain moves like armbars. I mean, I've seen, and you've probably seen as well, somebody's had an armbar on for far too long, and the person on the bottom's not tapping, and you're like, fuck, you should have tapped 10 minutes ago. Do you know what I mean?
It was one of the things that put me off doing MMA anymore. I had a couple of my MMA fights where people essentially didn't tap, and I had to finish the submission, and it's that's not something I want to know. I don't want to know how it feels to break someone's arm. I take no pleasure in it. Like, kind of, for me, and or maybe I'd realised I'm not really a fighter either, or like that kind of fire, because I can pull the trigger, but I don't want to. And but my thoughts on heel hooks, I'm like, I never understood why. I understand at the first few bouts, because you want people to learn, because I think everyone does that once or twice where you kind of let someone pull an arm too much or a Kimura or something, and you don't break, but it's a bit sore for a few days. You get tennis elbow or something, and you're like, I'm being stupid. So I understand maybe from blue, purple, whatever it is, but everyone will universally say a heel hook is the most devastating joint lock, which I agree with. And then they go, we'll take it out, it's too dangerous. If I boxed, people have died from being hit with straight rights, right? Or crosses in boxing. And I spent years boxing. No one said you can't throw crosses because they could kill someone or they're really dangerous. They go, no, this is the whole point of this, is to be able to hurt someone and be dangerous. That's the point of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is that if someone wants to take my property or hurt my family, I can permanently disable them, right? So a heel hook is a fantastic way of doing that if I can train it in a way where I'm not hurting my training partners or getting hurt myself. So to have this weird thing is, we don't do that, it's too effective. I'm like, give me the most effective stuff. No martial artist has ever complained that it's too effective. What a ridiculous thing to worry about, right? That's not the goal, is not to be safe. It's to be able to mess someone up if you have to, right? Hopefully it's a last resort, but if you have to. So I never understood why you couldn't do heel hooks. And then when I got brown belt, it was just as kind of, it's like 5 years ago maybe, just as the leg locks had this big explosion, but no one could really teach you it. This was the issue I had. So I got my brown belt. All of a sudden, everyone's leg locking me. I didn't know it very well. I knew a little bit from my MMA days, but nothing good enough to do anything. So me being a Creonche, I went straight to the 10th Planet gym down the road, because you could roll and do heel hooks, which they wouldn't let me do at my Roger Gracie club. Now they do let you in some of the classes, but at the time they wouldn't let you do it at the Roger Gracie classes. So I went there so I could do heel hooks, and I got the coach. So I'm gone there as a brown belt, and I've got the purple belt instructor, and be like, can you teach me heel hooks and like some leg locks and transitions and defense? And and then I got a little notepad out, and just on my own time and drilling, I would spend 2 or 3 hours every week working leg lock escapes, entries, get Craig Jones DVD, study video. And I got to the point where now everyone's afraid of my leg locks, but I'm not. I still don't think I'm a leg locker. I'm just don't want to get my legs broken. That's my sensation about it. I'm so scared of it that I wanted to get good at it. It seemed sensible to me. You know, if you're an armbar expert, the chances of you getting armbarred are pretty low. You're going to know all the setups. You're going to know everything. So I want everyone out there, if you're worried about leg locks, get good at leg locks, right? And it was quite an ego thing as well, because I'd get my students, my good blue belt students or something, and I'd start them in like 50-50 or like honey hole, a really good leg lock position. And I'd be like, finish me, right? Tap me out. And I try and work the escapes. And all of a sudden, my students that would probably never normally be able to tap me out, they're catching me a lot because I'm doing something I'm bad at. Yeah. But it's also that like ego control thing of going towards your weaknesses and getting good at that. But yeah, I'm glad leg locks are in. Leg locks are awesome. I like leg locks, and it means I don't have to wrestle.
I mean, it's one of the. As I said, it's like I referee. I do refereeing at competitions, so up in Scotland and things like that. So, and one of the, in fact, two of the moves that terrify me is a Kimura and an Americana. Okay, so now the reason for that, I was doing the table one time and the referee was on, and somebody got the guy in an Americana, and the guy in the bottom wasn't tapping at all, and ended up snap as soon as it happened. That was it. He didn't feel it. He kind of lay there and he's like, "Is the fight over?" And you're like, "Yeah, man, it's over." And he went away to the hospital, come back, he had a spiral fracture in 4 different places. So, and again, anybody that doesn't know what a spiral fracture is, it's almost like a Chinese burn where you are twisting the bone one way and twisting the bone the other way. And as soon as
what competition is this?
This was a local comp. It was Scottish Grappling.
So it always makes me laugh. Like these people are like, I will sacrifice my arm for this medal on a Sunday in a sports centre with 8 people watching. I'm like, what are you doing? What was the prize money on the line? What was the glory?
I mean,
just nothing.
That was the first round. It was the very first round. He still had, maybe another couple of rounds to go. And we were all sitting saying the same. Like,
what division was it?
White belt.
See, I target safety wise, I think I would never referee, but I think for other people, I think referees in especially white belt divisions or smaller tournaments, they should be able to jump in and stop.
Well, this one, when it happened, as I said, he was in control. He was in control. So it was Americana, so he was in control. There was no danger. But what then happened was the person on top stepped his leg over their head. And as soon as they did that, there was more leverage. And as soon as that happened, bang, that's when it broke. And I mean, we said the same thing. I mean, the guy was from Jersey, so he had to fly home. But he couldn't fly home because obviously he fucking broke his arm. You know what I mean? So, and then
for like a $199 medal.
And he went to the hospital and he came back. And to be fair, the guy was full of jokes because he came back and he's like, "Right, guys, I'm ready for the no-gi." And you're like, "Mate, you're not." You know what I mean? Like, you're lucky if you get out of Motherwell because you're not flying home.
Do you remember that? Do you remember the MMA League back in the day? Do you remember this is one of the first things you could do? It was so I don't even know it, but they go to different gyms and these people do smoker fights. So you'd be like, no medics, and then you'd match up on the day, no headshots, but you'd try it 3 times in a day, an MMA fight, right? So you could knee the body and elbow the body, but you couldn't hit in the head. But other than that, it was full MMA rules, like 1 5-minute round. And they just go on the day, be like, you fight. And like, this is when I was in early 20s, I used to love it. Because jiu-jitsu guys, you about to smoke everyone. But, and they got shut down because they had this young kid and he's all right. He's on the bottom and he gets caught in a guillotine, right? And the referee's just some guy having a go, right? First time ever doing it. He gets choked out. Ref doesn't know he's out. The person attacking him doesn't really realize he's out. Let's go with the guillotine, grabs his arm, just snaps his arm. I was like, so this poor kid's woken up to just his arm being snapped and he's unconscious. And it's like, and I think this like 17-year-old's dad sued and the whole show got shut down. But madness. Like, I don't know why you referee. I've done it once and it was the most miserable experience of my life. I did it. It was like last minute. This like charity, a grappling show thing was good, and Ashley Williams was the main event. And the guy running it was like, "Chris, the referee's pulled out. It's sub only. All you got to do is stand there." And I was like, "Oh no, I hate refereeing." And he's like, "Please, it's for charity, please." And I'm like, "What's the rest of the card?" He's like, "Everyone else is like below you, like belt wise. It's only Ashley in the main event, and those guys know what they're doing, so you'll be fine." And I was like, "Oh, it's if it's blue belts, I can just like pull the card and be like, no, I'm right, I'm a black belt, even though I have no idea what I'm doing."
Yeah.
So I get there, and then because they're all pretty good, they're very good blue and purple belts, whatever. They've got like Daniel Strauss in their corner, Roger Gracie, Mauricio Gomez shouting at me, being like, "Ref, what are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing."
I mean, the referee is good. I mean, don't get me wrong. It can be. I mean, anybody that goes to a jiu-jitsu event, I mean, if you see 100 fights in a day, less than 10 of them are going to be great fights. Very, very unusual that you'll get 100 fights and you'll have 100 great fights. So as a referee, you're watching, you're like right there watching. Yeah. Everybody else is watching thinking, this is boring as fuck, man. Especially, I mean, people getting a 50-50 card for 6 minutes.
I know, you got to concentrate. Man. You look around, you get an instant bollocking. So you're like, got to be on it. I don't. The problem with that is, I'll do a lot of commentating on MMA shows, and you'll see when people lose fights, and I've probably done the same thing. It's a threat to your identity or manhood or something. So there's this instant reflection to try and find an excuse, and I think that's okay. Everyone does it, and then usually after a little while, you get to come to terms with it. Then you'll be like, "Oh no, I made a mistake in you." So the first thing you're going to blame is the referee, right? Oh, he stopped it too early. Oh, he stopped it too late. Oh, he did this wrong, that wrong. Something happened, and then if the referee does a great job, everyone just ignores him. They're like, "Go away. No one cares about you. You're only interesting when you mess up." So I was like, I don't want to be a referee. That's that's what a horrible job to do.
Nah, we do. Maybe we enjoy it. I mean, it's as a referee. I mean, it's good. I mean, especially. I mean, white belts. I mean, even when they put their post up later on in the day, they've won a medal, and they're like, "Oh, I want to thank my coach. I want to thank the referee." And you're like, "Wow, I'm getting thanks as well."
Only when they win. They don't want to thank you.
Only when they win. So, and then we've got one there, Rodri Williams, tap or snap.
Oh, hi, Rod, one of my students from Tame. Yep.
So obviously tap or snap. I mean, that's something that you learned you're taught as a white belt. I mean, all the way up to black belts and beyond. Tap or snap. I mean, if you break an arm or break a leg, knee pops or whatever, I mean, you're out for 6 weeks minimum. I mean, if it's a knee, if it's a heel hook, I mean, you're out for months. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them things. You don't fuck about with it.
I made this mistake about 3 weeks before I was due to fly out to Rio to train. I'm training in class, and I think I'm a purple or brown belt, and the guy on top is one of my students, but he's like a belt lower than me, but he's really good. He's really, really good. He's won loads of stuff since then. I'm not going to say his name, but so he's starting in mount. And the thing about you starting in a dominant position, it really doesn't matter if you tap because you were already given the position. But a little bit in my head of ego, and I don't want to tap to this guy in particular. And he caught me in a Americana. I didn't tap, and then it didn't break, but it popped my elbow in and out. It got like a dislocation. Yeah. So 3 weeks later, I'm in Brazil in a sling in Rio, the capital of jiu-jitsu, and I got to roll every round asking him. I learned how to say in Portuguese, "Can you roll with one arm, please?" And I would just tuck my arm in my gi and then just try and roll with one arm. And 90% of people there were really nice about it, but I so learned my lesson. I tap so fast now. I'm such a... People take the mick out of me. I'm like, I got 4 kids. It's way more important that I can pick them up and put them in bed than it is that I survived this submission in the gym. Like, who cares? I really don't care anymore if I get submitted. It's just depends who it is. But most of the time, I don't care who it is. I don't get if I get submitted. And I think it's good as well to do bad position training because it kind of frees you to not have the ego and everything tied into it. So, if someone wanted to learn leg locks, start in a really bad leg lock position and work your escapes because then you can tap really fast anyway because who cares because you let them start there they didn't really win. So
definitely but you're right. I mean, as I say, it's one of them things. As I say, I was taught very first day that I came into the class, and I remember that was the first thing the coach said to me, "Look, tap or snap," and everybody else in the class said the same thing. As I say, the first few lessons I didn't understand what they were talking about, and then obviously I realized very quickly why you tap quick.
It drives me mad when my younger students, like teenagers, always do this. They're practicing, they're getting armbarred or whatever, and then they go, I'm like, tap, and they're like, no, I can't feel it. I'm like, You're waiting for it to hurt. Like, it makes no. I'm like, you can. Or you need to tap because of your knowledge of the position. You don't need to tap because of the sensation of the position. And leg locks especially, because do you know what an Aoki lock is? You kind of slip the heel out a little bit. So it's kind of like a straight foot lock, but you put more angle on the foot. And I was in a class, so I work for Globetrotters as well. I teach on some of the camps. So I'm in the class. I'm just joining in. One of Alexander Newfang is amazing leg locker, and he's teaching this advanced leg locks class. He's teaching this Aoki lock on this Polish dude, and he's doing it, and the guy's like, "I feel nothing." He's doing it, "I feel nothing." You're doing it, "I feel nothing," and then snap. And he's, I'm like, he couldn't have done it like slower and more control. I would have tapped so far early. I would have never waited for it to hurt. I can look at my leg and be like, "That's not right. That is not pretty." You see some picture from some horrendous car accident, someone's legs the other way, and you're like, "No, that's not. That's disgusting." Just the look of it, right? I can do that with my own body. I'm like, that doesn't look pretty. I'm just going to tap to that, even without feeling it.
Definitely. Now, for you then, Chris, I mean, as I say, you've got an extensive, as I said earlier, extensive martial arts experience. I mean, black belt
at
karate,
everything.
Black belt karate. Obviously, did MMA as well. Battle Arena middleweight champion. Obviously, JiuJitsu black belt as well. So, in regards to JiuJitsu, then, so what made you come over to JiuJitsu? What attracted you to JiuJitsu?
So I really fell in love with karate. Like my first class, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life from a living. I was like, I kind of straight away. And it's funny, prior to that, I grew up in a house where there was no fighting. My dad wasn't a fighting fan. It was not at all done. And I went to a martial arts class just looking for some exercise really, and fell in love with it. And I was training, within no time I was training 6 days a week. But this guy came in one day and he was, I think, fighting on MMA League or one of these small MMA shows. He's a really good karate guy, like Team GB, but he was also a little bit into MMA. But I hadn't seen the UFC. I'd seen Pride because it was on my parents' Sky TV box sometime. So I was kind of aware of that. And but I was pretty good at karate. So at the end of he was like teaching like a seminar or whatever. At the end of it, I was like, "Can I spar with you?" Like, I didn't really realize how rude it was at the time. I'm like 19 or 18 that, I'm calling him out in front of all these people. In my head, I was just like, oh, he's really good. I want to know what it's like to spar with someone that good. He's like, okay. So double legs me onto wooden floor, chokes me unconscious. I didn't know you're supposed to tap. Who knows, right? I come around and I'm like, again. Right? So then I'm worried he's going to grab my legs or do something. And he wheel kicks me in the face and cracks the bone in my face. Look at my cheekbone, had a crack down it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I'm not as tough as I thought. Because I had this theory that watching Pride, that if I was in that ring, I'd just kick him in the head. Why is everyone grappling? I'd just kick him in the head and it'd be fine. So I was like, oh, I need to learn a little bit of grappling so I can get back to karate, so that someone can't just take me down. So I found a local kickboxing club that had MMA like once a week. They brought in these judo guys that would teach all the kickboxers some groundwork. So I went there, but for whatever reason, I'm not the most. I think people say I'm not athletic. They're always kind of overselling it. I'm medium athletic, right? And a lot of the kickboxing guys are very athletic, right? They're light on their feet and head kicks and stuff. So, but I'm quite strategic. So one of the things that in like karate, I'll watch people spar and I'll figure out, I go, okay, he drops his left, but he throws his right. And he always does this combination, moves to this side. And I can beat someone that's stronger and faster because I got the strategy. Yeah. But as you know, the strategy is way more useful in jiu-jitsu, right, than the striking art. So I found that jiu-jitsu, the grappling stuff, I'd be pretty, well, let's be arrogant. I'd be the best guy in the grappling class and so in the striking class. So it was making me fall in love with grappling because I was having success with it in the class. And we had a little cage, and Friday nights we'd do like little mini fight nights, and we'd all try and knock each other out the old school sparring way that no one does anymore. And I was quite successful. And I was like, I'm probably, after a year and a half of this, I was like, I'm probably, so I was doing MMA League and other stuff. And I was like, I'm probably like a jiu-jitsu black belt, right? Never been with anyone that could do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I'm like, I'm going to go do Brazilian jiu-jitsu a little bit, right? So I can put the gi on. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So I go to Braulio, right? So I turn up for an afternoon class, and there's Norbert, who's like now black belt champion of everything. Braulio, who's black belt. He'd just come back from ADCC. There's Victor Estima there, right? And like a couple of other purple belts. And I was like, gonna smoke these dudes. Right? So optimistic.
Probably not the best room to be walking into with that.
No. And so they're teaching a bit, and they go, right, we're going to do some specific, we're going to start side control. So they go, you go on top of him. So it's me on top of Victor Estima. So I put Victor in like a Kezakatami, a head and arm hold, like a judo pin, right? Which is terrible in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because they get your back eventually, right? It only really works if you can pin someone. Yeah. And he's being nice to me. He goes, you don't really want to do that. And I turn around to Victor Estima and I went, I know what I'm doing. And then 12 seconds later, maybe realized I don't know what I'm doing. And then it was one of those experiences where I was sat in the changing room after being like, oh my God, like I can't believe. Because most people have that first grappling class where they go, the level, people smash you. But like, yeah, it took me like a year and a half to get to that point where I was like, I thought I was good. And then I was having amateur MMA fights, and I was with MMA clubs, I could hold my own. But that's because no one was really doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is 10, 11, 12 years ago. So, it was a completely shocking experience. But then from there, I fell in love with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then from that, I started doing MMA and having a lot of success with using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, lots of submissions. It really suits me because I've done striking martial arts my whole life. I've never knocked out anyone, right? But I've tapped out a lot of people. So I'd go into MMA fights, and I have a really good boxing coach. He's worked with like the GB team, and he'd spend weeks working boxing combinations with me, and he used to get so frustrated. I'm like, this is plan B, right? This is plan B. And he'd be like, try it, move around, stand on your feet. I'm like, maybe. But if I can get to the floor, I think my success rate is going to be so much higher. So yeah, that's basically, that was my journey into it. And then from there, teaching and having my own school and stuff. It's a cool life.
That first, when you went to Braulio's, did you know who these people were? Did you know who Braulio and Victor, Norbert and so on were?
Someone told me that Braulio was really good. That's all I knew. And that was it. But I think there was a couple of blue belts there as well. And it was more shocking that they smashed me because Braulio is a big, strong, like Victor and Braulio and Norbert, and like they look like they're going to beat you up as well. They're like not in a nice way. They look the great looking men, but they look tough. It was the little weedy accountant blue belt that fucked me up. There, was like really upsetting. I've dedicated my life to this, and I still get smashed. But then it still feels the same. I can go roll with Roger now, and I still get smashed, and you still get that sensation, unless you're Roger Gracie, or even him, right? I'm sure there's people. I'm sure he went and rolled with Gordon Ryan or someone. He's gonna feel some pressure, even if he doesn't lose. But you never get over that. There's always someone.
It's humbling. That's what they always say. It's humbling. I mean, my biggest thing was that I've done so far. I went to the IBJJF British and I won it.
Very good.
Yeah, well, listen, I remember coming back to the gym on the Monday and be like, because this was always a thing. You would always come in wearing the medal that you.
I love it.
On the Monday, you come strolling into the gym and you'd be in the changing room and you'd be like, yeah, British champion. And then you would go into the mat and you would get absolutely smashed. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, right, okay. And then some coaches and all that would be whispering as they're rolling with you like, so Stuart, if I beat you, am I British champion? Yeah. Take the medal.
Those promotion days as well. There's seminars where the new belts and stuff. Never roll at those because you'll get your brand new purple belt and then get smoked by a white belt straight away. It's guaranteed because you got all this. You're excited. I want to try it out, and then you're just going to get smashed. Like give it a couple of days and then come back and roll in a normal class. You're one of those dudes that wore the medal in the service station on the way home. You're one of those. Oh no!
It depends on what the medal was. I mean, the British was obviously a big one, so I wore that one. But like local medals, local competitions, I wouldn't. Anytime I won an IBJJF medal, I wore that proud because obviously IBJJF for me anyway, and a lot of people, that's the pinnacle. That's the one that you want to win. So anytime I won an IBJJF medal, I would even sit in the house and I'd be on the couch wearing the medal, and I'd be like, my wife would make me a tea, and she'd be like, no, and you'd be like, I'm British champion. Do you know what I mean? So
it doesn't work. Your missus will not be impressed for very long. I had the same. I live in this tiny little market town in Oxfordshire called Tame, and it's this really like. When I say I live there, I teach there because everyone's rich. I live down the road, but so. I said the only supermarket is a Waitrose. This is how posh this place is. Okay, so I said I was fighting on Battle Arena for the big gold belt, and I said if I win it, I'm going to walk around. I'm going to come back to tape. I'm just going to strut around Waitrose with my cage fighting belt on. But I bottled it. I didn't do it in the end. Maybe I'll do it one day. But.
No, definitely. I mean, as I said, medal. Only depending on the medal. As I said, depending on the medal. But yeah, as I said, I'll wear it for a few days. I'll even go into work with it on. I'll go into work on it, sitting it.
We're very different people, you and I like that goes straight in a cardboard box in the cupboard when I do. So, I like your style, though. That's good.
And then taking us on to Battle Arena. I mean, Battle Arena. You obviously you are commentator, as you mentioned earlier. So the winning the Battle Arena middleweight champion. So did you at that point were you working for Battle Arena, or did that come after?
No, it was so yeah, I didn't really deserve the title shot. I wasn't the champ was 8-0 I think at the time, and they were looking around for who could challenge this guy who's really good, and I'd done like loads of the no headshotsy fights. I'd had a couple of boxing fights. I won a load of jiu-jitsu tournaments, like purple belt, British, and stuff like that, like pretty big ones. And I'd had 2 MMA fights, so I wasn't really in a position to challenge for the title. But I spoke to my coach and I spoke to the promoter, James Price, and I was like, look, I've watched videos of the guy, and I know I've got a really good shot of beating him, right? And I was like, I know I don't really deserve the title shot. I hadn't even fought on that show yet. And I was like, but I think I can do this. And my coach then, who's very well respected, he went and vouched for me and went, look, this guy's good. He's got a shot. And my Conor McGregor confidence was, I'll probably lose, but it'll be really good experience. So I was like, if I lose, I was the main event on an MMA show. I did the walkout and I fought for a British title. So I was like, even lose, like that's a good thing to go forwards, because I was already thinking about becoming a teacher, and that was my kind of long-term goal. So yeah, I had the fight, and I did pretty well, and I won, and I got a submission at the end. I showed jiu-jitsu working, got a really nice armbar, and then from there, I had a little bit of time off, and I was offered to defend the belt, which I had no interest in. And I was like, why would I win a medal I've already won? That was my jiu-jitsu approach. It's like, but then you'll still be champion. I was like, I'm all right with former. It's just a word. And then in my head, I had because I'd fought someone that wasn't a great grappler, and it was kind of stylistically very good for me. And then if you only have one fight that's kind of main event on a big show, I was like, I always had this in the back of my head that maybe I fluked it. And I was like, and it went well, and I was like, I feel like I got something to prove to myself. And the next way up, the light heavyweight, they had another champion, and he was 8 or 9-0, and he all first round KOs, ground and pound. The picture of me and him at the weigh-in is hilarious, because he's built like a Greek god, and I look like an accountant, which is very embarrassing. But and he's got a mohawk, a face tattoos. He's got like 300 people steering for him. I got my misses, and I look a bit afraid. So I fight him, and he hits me so hard. I've never been hit that hard in my life. And then I'm throwing up submissions off my back, and I caught an armbar and popped his arm, and he popped it back in and then punched me with it. And I got a foot lock, which I felt cracking and popping, and he just didn't even flinch. And then at the end, I managed to catch him in a triangle, and I won. And then the same thing, James, the promoters come back to me and said, right, you got to defend the belt. And I was like, no, I'm done. Just a really reliable champion. That's the thing. And I know that he was thinking about trying different commentators for the show. The ones they had weren't great. They were good, but they weren't great. And I'd done a few podcasts and things, and I was like, look, I teach classes. I do a lot of public speaking. I teach seminars. I'm comfortable talking. I was like, can you just let me try it? And I was like, let me have a go. I think I was terrible in the first one, but I was clearly good enough to get the job. And then I was like, look, I don't want to fight anymore. I just want to do the commentary. I love being part of it without getting brain damage, which I think is the smart man's move. Yes. But but now I've been replaced. I've just been fired, which is great news. Everyone's been sending me condolences, but I haven't really been fired. So Battle Arena, I did a really smart thing, right? I became champion when the show was really small and the level was pretty low. So now it's really gone places. We've had UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, Cage Warriors champions coming through the show, and it's established itself as like Europe's, especially on the amateur scene, Europe's biggest show, which means they're getting all this interest and they're selling TV rights. So they want to have a full TV production with Sky TV. And so thankfully I've been promoted. So I'm going to be like TV presenter essentially. So I won't be able to do the commentary anymore, which is a real shame because I absolutely love being a commentator. But I think sometimes you've got to take the opportunity and risk losing something to get something else. So we'll see how it goes. Did I answer your question? I've waffled on way too much.
No, definitely. I mean, and then obviously taking us on to, obviously you got promoted, so Battle Arena are looking for 2 new commentators.
Oh, you're going to do it? Come on, Stoon Boy.
Nah, not me. But listen, Peter Knox, who is the MMA UK guy, tells me all the time that jiu-jitsu guys shouldn't be talking about MMA. So he always gives me a hard time.
Why? What's his opinion on that? Why?
Well, he thinks that jiu-jitsu has no place in MMA. He's a striker. He's a stand-up striker type guy. So he gives me a hard time. Obviously, he doesn't believe that, but because I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, I get a hard time all the time.
If you were coming into MMA as a world champion in something, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, something, right? Would you honestly want to go in as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu world champion? I don't think that's a great base.
Yeah.
And although you have to be super athletic to be a Brazilian jiu-jitsu world champion, you probably don't have to be as athletic as a wrestling world champion or a judo world champion, or it's a different kind of athleticism. Like, I'm saying, in a way, I a little bit agree with him. I think the MMA's got to this point where if that was your special move, it's not the best one anymore. But if you don't have it at all, you're going to get tapped out. So you've at least got to have it covered.
Yeah. Definitely. So you guys have got the competition, 2 new commentators, and I'm just having a look at this here. So obviously the competition, search for 2 new commentators, UK commentators. So you think you've got what it takes to flow on the mic when the fights are in full effect, which can be a hard thing to do. I mean, you know yourself, it can be difficult to do. We talked a bit about bias earlier on towards fighters.
It's very hard to, and because the UK MMA scene and like martial arts scene it's actually quite a small fraternity. You see the same people, and you're going to end up commentating on the same fighters over and over again, and like you literally, and then your friends and fighters and people will come and call you out if they're not happy with you. They'll let you know, and this is cage fighters you're upsetting, so you got to have a deep think about it. And the thing about Battle Arena specifically, it's quite a different challenge. I realized that my first show, I came on and I was a terrible. This is my advice for anyone that's going to do the competition. I was a terrible Joe Rogan impersonator, and that is not what you should do for this show because it's a very different show. The average UFC fan is paid for the pay-per-view. They've got ESPN. They understand the sport to some degree, right? Yeah. So if I was commentating and you were listing, it'd be so easy. I'd be like, oh, he's got half guard, he's got an underhook, boom. You know what I'm saying, right? But for a show where most of the fights are amateur, most of the people watching aren't MMA fans. They're fans of those people, right? It's Dave's work colleague and his old school friends and whatever else. So you have to. You can be in a situation of like one guy's on top half guard, the other guy's on the bottom. Now, to the layman, that guy's laying on him. Why doesn't he get up? Right? Yeah. And Joe Rogan can go, oh, he's stuck. Wow, this is huge. Blachowicz is a beast. Rah, rah. On Battle Arena, what we've got to do is explain, what the guy on the bottom needs to do is get his right arm through to an underhook. Can you see he's trying to do that now? And that will mean he can get on his side and be able to get back to his feet. And what the guy on the bottom is trying to do is stop him doing that. And that's why he's not actually hitting him very hard. It's a bit like when you watch the Olympics, you can watch diving or something you know nothing about. And the the commentator will explain the narrative, and you can follow along and really enjoy a sport you don't know anything about. And that's what we need for someone doing Battle Arena. It's not just enough to be an MMA fan or be able to be on a mic and be comfortable. You've got to be able to explain what's happening in front of you and throw in the occasional excitement and that's funny thing or whatever else as well. Or perving on the ring girls, whatever works for you.
So the competition is up to, entries need to be in by the 31st of March, so end of March. You're going to announce the winners a week later. So basically what the competition is you're going to, I believe you guys are going to send a fight video over to
we're going to send you We're going to send you a video with no audio track. You're going to record your audio over the top. And then me and Steve Brinkman, my fellow commentator, has also been promoted to TV presenter. We're going to listen to it with the promoter, and whoever does the best, you got the job. It's a paid for job. It's a cool job, man. Like it's led me to other things and opportunities as well, and doing podcasts like this. So like if anyone's ever fancied it, just put yourself out there and have a go. Like the worst that happens is you'll crap at it and you could try again, right? My advice would be, and this is going to make you sound mental, right? But don't just jump straight in and think you're going to be great. Listen to a few different shows. Like the UFC's got 5-6 different commentators now. You can rewatch some events of cool fights, and then also watch events of boring fights, right? So that you can understand like on what to add in. And then for the people that are going to do it, prep, right? So on Battle Arena, it's quite easy. I can watch the guys' previous fights and talk about those. I can talk about their record. If we have someone who's a debut, what I'll often do is go chat to them and be like, what do you do for a living? They'll be like, oh, I'm a paramedic. And the guy will be fighting. I'll be like, do you know he's a paramedic? He's saving people by day and smashing them by night. Isn't that interesting? Like, he's going to be the first one to give this guy medical attention. And like, you can make it so much more interesting. So don't just jump in and be like, I know fighting, so I'm going to be good at this. Like, actually practice, make some notes, and your success rate will go up a little bit.
Yeah, because you can be the best fighter in the world, but absolutely terrible on the mic. Or vice versa, you can be not the best fighter in the world, yet be absolutely fantastic on the mic. So
the worst one is announcers. When you have a bad announcer. Oh, so Battle Arena tried this guy out in, I don't want to, we'll call him out. Oxford, I think it was, the Oxford show. And the guy turned up and he looks the part. He's got like a dicky bow tie on, this cool jacket, and he looks cool, right? And he's like, in the red corner, here's Bob. I'm like, how can you got, this is a cage fight. Like the excitement, you got like, so I've done a little bit of announcing and I scream until I lose my voice. By the main event, I'm like, like, I get so into it. And then like, I understand. It's that you, all of a sudden you're stood in front of 2,000 people and you're self-conscious. I had one at Birmingham where you're announcing and this was on TV and the cameras aren't showing the crowd, so no one on TV, they don't know that the crowd's empty because it's a prelim or whatever. So I'm in the cage and I go, "This is Battle Arena 49, brought to you by Netavision and made for fighters fightwear and blah blah." And I just heard this Brummy accent in the background going, "Nobody cares, love." I started laughing. I was like, "I know." It's like, what can you do? my one person of the crowd.
And it's an exciting time to get involved in Battle Arena because obviously you guys are doing the Birmingham show. So this is we've obviously top level pro card. As I said, and I believe, is this the first pro card you guys are doing? Or
so what we've done before is we've had amateur cards with 3 or 4 pro fights as our main events on the main card on an amateur card. This is going to be an all pro card. Mm-hmm. I think Battle Arena, it's just really established itself as the kind of premier thing. And the reason it has, obviously I'm very biased, but the reason it has is because they look after fighters. So when I was fighting, the first few shows I fought on, there was no medic. The red corner was the car park, right? Mm-hmm. The referee was a guy that was just having a go. Like you hand wrapping, you're like, okay, if you want. Like, so what Battle Arena do, they have a professional hand wrapping crew. So you don't have to, if you're a coach, you're not very good at wrapping hands, which some aren't. You can go to these professional hand wrappers, they do it for you. They have a cage side ambulance, 2 paramedics, and a A&E doctor sat there waiting, right? They have the ISKA officials. So these are the same guys that do like Glory and the huge shows. They're doing the amateur fights on the Battle Arena card. And then you have a full backup team as well. You have professional judges. So even though you're fighting on an amateur card, you have judges that are not biased. They've got no connection to anyone. And you have professional matchmaking as well. So you have fair matchups. And that's why it's established itself. You know, it's not like Battle Arena does amazing marketing or anything else compared to these other shows out there. It's because they look after the gyms, they look after the fighters, and they do their best. And that's where they put their money. They've always put the money that them profits they've been making back into the show, back into helping the fighters. And like, I'm there, and I've been at some of the pro shows, and I'm thinking, you know, this small little amateur show in Kettering has got twice the production value than these huge shows. And that's why it's going places. And that's why we're going to be able to sell out a full pro card. And we're going to, you know, they've got this TV deal coming as well. And I think Cage Warriors is great, but I think it's a little bit limited by being on Fight Pass, the amount of exposure they can get.
Yeah.
So they're going to struggle to get new fans. Whereas Battle Arena, I think, could end up being the UK's biggest show, and why not? Like, they've got the best, they do the best of everything, so I can't see, apart from commentators, because the new guys are going to be terrible.
You never know, man. You can find the UK's version of Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier come in.
I know. Could you be so bad if they were so much better than me? That would be really upsetting. I might pick someone terrible. Like, get up to put your audition in. Don't be too good.
It's definitely an exciting time to get involved with Battle Arena. As I said, obviously you guys have got a lot of things coming up, a lot of good things coming up. So, yeah, I'd say to get involved, I'd say you can go into the MMA Battle Arena on Facebook.
Send them a message. And also, if you're a gym or a fighter looking for somewhere to fight where you're going to be looked after, get in contact to Battle Arena through any of the social medias, really. We'll get back to you. And it's such a good jumping off platform for the huge shows as well. Like I said, Leon Edwards, Fabian Edwards, like some of the top guys in the world now have come through Battle Arena. And because it's professionally filmed for Sky TV and whatever else, but even before that, with your professional filming to put on YouTube, if you get a huge knockout, that you can make a great highlight reel, and then you can have this amazing reel, great production value, and take it to these big shows, and they can chuck it straight on a VT and have you up there, you know, getting big fights straight away. So it's the place to be. And so if you're a fighter, a gym, or you want to have a go at commentating, get on Battle Arena through Facebook. Is probably the best way, and send us a message, and I'm sure we'll be happy to have you. But saying that, there's a lot of people desperate to fight at the moment. There's so many fighters frustrated. I think we could fill 3 cards over at the moment. But
definitely. I mean, I know you, or James Price, he'd put the thing up the other day, talking about, obviously, you were looking to match up pros at different weight levels, 120, 93, 84, 70s, 66s. So yeah, I mean, as they definitely get in contact with James, get in contact with Battle Arena, or even if you've got Chris on Facebook, just drop Chris.
I'll help you out, no problem.
And Chris will certainly go and give you the information that you need. So Battle Arena, obviously keep an eye out for that. It's going to be very, very exciting over the next couple of months. And then for you, I mean, what about you going back to competing? I know you've obviously you've had success coming through, whether it be through MMA, whether it be through, because obviously you competed in judo as well. I saw that you did some judo competing. Karate.
I'm terrible at judo. I don't want anyone getting any false impression that I can ever take anyone. I think I used to have like the document on my computer, and I put in all my scores from jiu-jitsu competition. Like a blue belt, I was competing every other weekend, and in my whole jiu-jitsu career, several hundred competitive jiu-jitsu matches, I've scored 1 takedown. I'm very proud of that 1 takedown. I was 2 points down with 10 seconds to go, and I still got a footlock instead. So judo might be overselling it. I mean, if I can enter a judo tournament, fall over in a way where they don't get a full hip on and then choke them, that's my level of judo. But in the future, so I work with Globetrotters. So if anyone's interested in doing a jiu-jitsu camp, they do them all over the world. So this guy called Christian Grauhart, he wrote the Jiu-Jitsu Globetrotter book. Luckily enough, I got the chance to work with him just in the tiny gap last year where we could go and do stuff. And I taught on the Austria camp, and hopefully I'll be teaching on one of the European camps this year. That's amazing. So You get to train 3 times a day in a really cool environment, and it's the kind of training where if you don't want to train 3 times a day, you can sit in the sun instead in a hammock as well, like whatever works for you. Get back to teaching, and then doing the TV stuff with Battle Arena, and I'm also working with this other website making a load of videos. I don't know if it's been named yet, but I'll be promoting it soon. But it's basically it's a portal. Is that the right word? I think that's the business word. For videos all made by jiu-jitsu instructors for other jiu-jitsu instructors. So some of them are like how to get new students. Some of them are. So I just made one yesterday. It was 100 like fun kids games to do in your kids classes. Loads of different drill games. And then there's loads of stuff on there. There's like how to make good instructional videos, and it's kind of through the Globetrotters network, but it's all these instructors putting great content. And I think the idea is that you're going to pay a fee like $100 or $200, and you get lifetime access to it. And then the way it'll work as well for us, the creators of all these videos, is we all get a little cut of the money as well. So it's a big like cooperative. So I'm working on that. But I've got this idea that I want to put past you. See if you think it's a good idea for a seminar kind of series and tour that I want to do. Obviously, this is why I want to put it to you. See if you think it's a good idea. Because although if no one's interested, it's not going to work. But so on Zoom, I've been doing Zoom classes with grapple dummies, right? Yeah. Which sucks the soul out of me, but it's better than nothing, but marginally, maybe 1% better than nothing. So I was like, how can I make this more interesting? So what I did is I went on YouTube and I got a load of clips of cool matches and moments from MMA fights and whatever, and then I streamed those clips on Zoom in like slow-mo, and then I talked over the top like I would if I was commentating, and then I taught the move on a grapple dummy. Yeah. So it's a much more entertaining Zoom class because you're seeing clips from UFC fights and things. Yeah. And then I thought I can make this a fun seminar. So I'd come to your Marcus's gym, and I'd bring a big projector, super bright one. We'd all watch a clip from a Craig Jones versus Gordon Ryan match where Craig Jones footlock someone. Yeah. We'll all watch it together, and then I'll teach it like a Gracie breakdown kind of thing. And then we'll all go off and practice it, and then we'll come back and we'll watch another clip from, this is how Khabib controlled Conor. Yeah. And the way I want to do it is obviously all the gyms have been struggling. So I want to put together this really slick seminar that's like that for like an hour and a half with some rolling at the end, some fun stuff. And then make it so whoever invites me to do the seminar, I do a 50-50. Because the problem with seminars is, Roger says, I want £1,000. And you go, right, I need this many students. If these guys don't turn up, I'm going to be out of pocket. So what I want to do is I charge, 20 quid a head. And whatever I make, 50-50 split with the gym. So the gym makes money for me just showing up with my projector, teaching techniques. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that nobody's done.
It could be because it's a bad idea.
With the project, I mean, that's fantastic because normally when you get, as you know, a seminar, a personal turn up, they'll show you a move based on maybe something that they've done. Because the most recent one was we had Kyle Terra and Mikey Musameki in Scotland. So he came to, obviously, Marcus's gym. We brought him in. And then what they did was they showed a move and then they said, this is the move that I did in the world champion, whatever fight it was. And 9 out of 10 people in the room are thinking, we've never seen that. Yeah. We've absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Obviously, the jiu-jitsu hardcore knew exactly what he was talking about because they've seen the fight. But as I said, most of them, white belts, every belt. Most of Marcos probably never seen it either. So for you to turn up with a projector and say, well, look, let's watch Craig Jones or let's watch whoever, Gordon Ryan or whoever it is, and then actually show it. So people are then saying, all right, okay, so that's what it is. And then obviously you showing the move. So I think, I mean, I'd say jiu-jitsu is all about, as you know, seeing something and then going and doing it. So you as a coach showing something, telling us why you're showing us it, and then doing the move. That's jiu-jitsu. A lot of people use YouTube as well as a teaching aid or as an instructional that they can watch and then copy the move. So for you to be able to do that in a seminar, I mean, I think that would definitely be a fantastic thing. I mean, it's something, obviously, we'll get you up to Glasgow, definitely. Do you know what I mean? I'll pimp you out all over Scotland.
Well, that's the goal. Is like, you know, for me, like you were saying earlier, like the community and traveling around, and like I'm not, you know, with these things, I've got to cover my expenses and make just enough to keep the wife off my back. That's always the goal. But for me, you know, if I can come and especially if people like it, you know, in 6 months' time, there'd be another 6 months worth of MMA fights and jiu-jitsu tournaments and ADCCs, so I can come back again in 6 months and break it down and still do the same thing. And you know, I feel, as I've attended a lot of seminars, like you say, they can be a bit dry and boring. And I think most people love jiu-jitsu because they like rolling. So it feels like a seminar can often feel like a really long class where you don't get to do the fun bit, right? And then often these kind of stars of jiu-jitsu, you know, they're doing a tour, they're a bit low on energy, slightly jet lagged. So like we've had one guy turn up drunk, Dean Lister. So it's like, I feel like they don't put the effort in. And also, you know, I've won the most prestigious thing I won is black belt British Masters, right? I'm not a world champion. I can't rock up and say, I'm Roger Gracie, give me $2,000, right? So I've got to come with a higher quality product. So my idea would be, we could turn up and do that, and then I'd have a film of it as well, so people could rewatch it on, you know, some entry point as well, and give out handouts and put in a lot of effort with it, and it's like, hopefully it'll be. I always think what I want to just find in my life is kind of like doing the TV stuff. Is I get paid to do something I love. So right, I don't really care if it's minimum wage, but I just get paid to do something I love, and I love teaching jiu-jitsu, and I really love teaching seminars because you meet all these cool people. It's so much fun. So if I can get to the point where I can build this nice little network of people that really enjoy my video breakdowns and seminars, and the thing about it as well is because of the commentating, I can tell a narrative and a story. So like the one I did before was EBI, where you had Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan. So I was showing clips of Craig going through the bracket and what he did, teaching that, and then Gordon going through the bracket, and then being like, and then they meet in the final, which the two greatest no-gi grapplers on earth, and then this is the last, and then you skip to the last 10 seconds where he's got the armbar, and then this is what Gordon did different to Craig, and this is why Gordon could make him tap and Craig couldn't make him tap, and that's got to be more interesting than some black belt that doesn't speak very good English, kind of half asleep teaching something. That's my theory. Hopefully, we'll see. So I'm gonna do one, make a little promo video of me doing it, and then send it out to all the gyms and be like, look, 50-50 split. If you think this is a cool idea, have me along. If you don't, thanks anyway.
No, definitely. As I say, it's something, as I say, I think, especially Scotland. I mean, as I say, the guys in Scotland love jiu-jitsu. I mean, we get people coming from everywhere. Globetrotters as well. I mean, we've got one of Giles Garcia. So Giles got his black belt last year from Christian at a Globetrotters camp that he was on. So back in the summer last year. So obviously the Globetrotter stuff as well. I mean, as I say, we know all about the Globetrotters. I mean, all of the gyms, I think majority of gyms are all in Scotland. They're all Globetrotter friendly gyms. So
well, we should all be, right? Because like, I don't like the whole team thing. It doesn't really mean like, let's just all get better together. Like I've had instructors not be happy that I'm training at 10th Planet or training. One of my first, so after Braulio's, I was trying to find somewhere closer to train, and I went to what was at the time was Brazilian top team, was in Milton Keynes place in England, and they were like, oh, if you train here, you can't train anywhere else. And I was like, what? And they're like, oh, it's secret moves. I was like, bye then. I was like, what are you talking about? The secret? How? I can't use it in a competition then if it's a secret, surely. And they're like, oh, that's fine. I'm like, but there's people there watching. It doesn't make sense. It's so stupid. Like, let's just all get. So I couldn't do it last year, but every year I organize a super seminar, right? So I try and get together the biggest names in UK BJJ that will give me their time for free. We put on this giant seminar and get everyone over. So like 2 years ago, couldn't do it last year, we had Mauricio, Dan Strauss, Ross Nichols, Mick Brostas, who's Eddie Brave's first UK black belt, Gavin Stewart, myself, and a couple of other guys. And like we had this like killer lineup, and everyone just talked 15 minutes. And then there's this. And then, you know, there's a 10th Planet guy drilling with a Roger Gracie guy, drilling with a whatever else guy. And like all these different clubs got together. And it's like, why is why does anyone like? We all do the same sport. Let's all hate Thai boxing together, right? Let's not hate jiu-jitsu. What's the point? Makes no sense. Or sambo or something.
Yeah. Now that's the one thing about Scotland. I mean, as we for years, I mean, we've been trying to get it to that point where everybody trains with each other, and we're now at a point where, well, obviously before the lockdown, we had it where everybody was going to each other's gyms. Whenever there was an open mat, it would go on the Scottish Jiu-Jitsu page, and you would have guys turning up from all over Scotland, turning up for the open mat. Seminars, when we did the Caio Terra seminar, we put it out to everybody in Scotland, because it's Caio Terra and Mikey Musameki. So we're like, well, we're not going to be selfish and keep them to ourselves. So we put it out to everybody, and we had people turn up. I mean, we had someone turn up from, I think it was fucking Portsmouth, flew all the way up for the seminar. Black belt. It was a female black belt.
Good afternoon. It's good.
Yeah, she came up and stayed for the seminar and then flew back down. So it was like, wow. So yeah, I mean, we opened it up to everybody. So something like that. I mean, we seen, especially that seminar, there was black belts from all over Scotland. It turned up, and as I said, Portsmouth that had turned up. So you had Gracie Baja black belt, you had the Marcus Nardini, you had a couple of their black belts. You had obviously the I can't even remember the gym. I think it was Checkmate that she came from. Come up from Portsmouth. So there was black belts, and I think we had about, including Mikey and Caio Terra, I think we had about maybe 8 or 10 black belts that turned up on a fucking Thursday night. But at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night, they travelled from all over. So it was great to see. I mean, as I said, you don't see that very often. You definitely don't see that very often.
It's a shame. In London used to be like that, where you'd have these open mats at certain gyms and everyone would get together, and you could have 20 black belts sometimes on a mat, and it all seems to, like, obviously the last year has been almost nothing, but slightly prior to that, it was all kind of going away a little bit. You know, a lot of the gyms had uniform policies coming in. Everyone has to wear the same gi, same rash guard, same shorts, and the Roger Gracie group, they've insisted upon that, and that's why I'm still connected, and that's where my belts are from, and we still have a good relationship. But that's why I became Fensom Jiu-Jitsu, because I don't want to turn around to my 16-year-old student who saved his pocket money for his gi and tell him he can't wear it. And and it wasn't quite the move, because I'm from a karate strict background, right? And I do that as well, which has the strict, you must wear this, you must look this way. But that's always been like that, and that's what that is. It's this Japanese military thing. The thing I liked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was it's a nice yin to that yang, where everyone high fives and shake hands, and no one bows, and everyone kind of get quite chill about it. The Brazilian, ethic comes through, and they're taking that away now by making it, you must call me this and line up this way and wear this uniform, and I'm not really into it. I like it when my students wear. I have my gi with my logo on and my rash guard, and I like it when they wear that. But I don't care. Like, you can wear what you want. If you're proud to have my name across your back, that's cool. But otherwise, no worries. I'm just here to teach you jiu-jitsu. I don't need you to wear my name. And it's like it's a bit like when you see grown men wearing football shirts with the name across the back. It always freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, I remember listening to a podcast and they say, if you see a man who's wearing your shirt, you're allowed to fuck him. But
nice.
It's probably inappropriate.
And then obviously Carol Fisher come in with a question there. So, who's been your biggest influence in your jiu-jitsu? Now, this is probably one of the ones, because obviously you are training with Roger Gracie, you're training under Kev, who's under Roger Gracie, Mauricio, and so on. So, so I'm presuming that would be your biggest influence, or do you have someone else that you would look at?
So biggest influence. So I would say they are huge influences, and the problem is, you say anything else, it feels like you're doing them down, and obviously they are massive influences, but everyone's got their game, right? So Roger, so I'm 6'5", right? Roger's 6'5", so everyone's when I started jiu-jitsu, they're like, fight like Roger, and then I stood next to Roger, I was like, I am not That guy's twice as wide as me. Have you seen his back? Like, yeah, he tears people's gis in half. Like, I struggle with paper, right? So I can't. I'm not particularly strong, but I'm probably more flexible than Roger, right? So I can do rubber guard and stuff like that. And then Kev is an amazing instructor, but he's 4'2", right? And a little angry ginger bloke. So he can teach me a lot, but I'm never gonna fight like him. So I think my biggest influence has been it's so hard to say. It's like my biggest influence is like the YouTube, basically, right? So if you like, I watch matches and I see techniques and I try it out and then I go to all these different instructors and get their influence and put it all together. But I think the biggest thing for me is not so much like the one biggest influence, it's putting it all together in a melting pot and making your game, your jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And then coming out with that. And then it's not just your physicality, but it's your personality as well. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not an aggressive person, so I tend to let people kind of the boxing equivalent, like punch themselves out, like grapple themselves out, patient, and like slowly look for weaknesses. So instead of like one influence, I feel like I've had a million influences and made my own potion out of it, my own jiu-jitsu game. That's a long way of saying no one.
But it's always funny. I mean, especially because I think I spoke with Professor Joanna, who trains under Roger Gracie as well, and that was the thing. Always somebody came in with the same kind of question: who's your biggest influence? And her biggest influence was obviously, I mean, you're training with the best person that's ever done jiu-jitsu, so how would you look at someone else? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. But then he's the best ever, and part of that is because he did it since he was like 6 years old, right? So it's a bit like, you know, someone really inspiring can be, you know, someone that had some horrible physical problem and overcomes it, right? And then they deal with that. And sometimes a great coach, I'm sure you found this, like you've had great coaches that aren't that good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like to roll with, right? Mm-hmm. You can smash them and then they teach and you're like, whoa, your like level of knowledge is like, it's a bit like they're an amazing racing driver, but they've got a crappy car, right? So it's a mean analogy, but so like Roger's amazing and he's an amazing racing driver with a bloody Ferrari, but there's other people as well, and there's other approaches, and to like, I think the problem maybe for Roger is it's almost too natural and easy for him. Sometimes it's good to learn from someone that really struggled. So I had some privates with Roger years ago. My wife for my 30th brought me a couple of privates with Roger, and so I got on my notebook, being like everything I could think of, being like, right, I'm going to ask him questions on this, and everything I said, I was like, oh right, Roger, I keep getting passed when I go for this from X guard, and he's like, why? I'd be like, because I'm not you. That's why. What do you mean why? How can you? I'm like, I'm not you, right? That's the problem. And then, so I think sometimes, like, Roger's a great influence, and like his jiu-jitsu, I'm really admire. But it's also as well, like, I will probably never be that, because I'll never be that even if I did all the steroids and did everything in the world. But to even be like my maximum potential, let's say get bronze in Masters Worlds, right? I probably have to be a terrible dad and a terrible husband and very selfish. So I've got so many influences, but to just pick one is very difficult, because there's also, like, I look at things beyond just how good are you at choking people. Like, you know, how good are you? I want a all-round good person, right? And Roger's a good person, but you know, there's many other people as well.
Definitely. And then future. What's the future then for yourself? Obviously, once we get out of this lockdown properly, because obviously that's the biggest hurdle. They always say about jiu-jitsu, there's going to be a lot of hurdles, but nobody foreseen this pandemic. So obviously there was nothing in the black belt blueprint that mentioned anything about a pandemic.
I used to have a panic attack if I had to close for one day when it snowed. I'd be like, everyone's going to quit, I'm going to be homeless. And now you're like, I closed for a year. I'll be all right.
So, but yeah, once we get out the lockdown, I mean, what's your vision? I mean, for maybe yourself, for your own gym, for for Battle Arena and stuff like that. So what's your visions?
So I got a couple of so I think you got to have a plan and a plan B, and so I'm looking at a new location, a bigger kind of location to have my own gym. But I've always wanted. So the location we're looking at is on the side of rugby club. So we'd have an arrangement with them where basically we wouldn't have to pay that much rent. So because I want to be able to run my business in a way where it doesn't suck the life and soul out of me, where I don't want to do 10 privates a day because I'm just going to end up miserable, right? So I've been looking for a gym for years, a big place, but in the right way, where I'm not just become some miserable businessman. So if that works out, which is hard to know because funding and whatever now with COVID, but if that works out, then if that doesn't work out, I'm thinking of building like a nice log cabin in my garden, big matted area, kind of 30 square meters or something, and do like loads of small groups and privates. And I'll still do group classes in a gym down the road, or a couple of gyms. But like the majority of my business will just be doing privates in my garden, which is quite a cool lifestyle balance thing. And then more Globetrotters camps, hopefully my seminars, if we can get people interested in that. And I'm definitely not done competing. I think Masters Worlds is calling me. I might wait like another year till all my kids are at school, and then I can be a bit more selfish about my training. Do you know this year they still have Masters Worlds, right? So I'm pretty fit. I've been lifting and kettlebells and all that stuff, and so I was like, I wonder if I could go and do all right. And I was like, this could be really genius, right? Because if no one else goes, right, I get a medal. I'm like, silver medal, world masters, black belt champion, right? Retired, never compete again. And I was like, I'm going to look at my category. Maybe I could fly out last minute, sneak in, compete, come back. I looked at my category, Lovato. I was like, nah. No, I know. I might just give it another year.
See Lovato's name. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's, especially first round. I mean, I remember going over to the Euros, not the last year, the year before, and I came up against. I'd always look at the list of people who's in the division and think, right, I'm going to smash him. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and it's just getting myself mentally ready. So when I go in, I'm like, I'm the king, right? Nobody's
I like it. It's good.
So in the division was the world number one as per ranked by the IBJJF. Right?
You don't want to Google that.
Right, so obviously the top blue belt, number one, ultra heavyweight. And I thought, I'll go in ultra. I'm about 106. I'll go in. Rather than cutting the 6 kilos, I just went in and I got him the very first round, right? So I'm thinking, because everybody was laughing, saying, Stuart, you're going to get him in the first round, and then they brought out the fucking the fights, and first round, me against this guy Juarez Santos, right? So we goes to go into the mat. Now I was in the bullpen, as I do, jumping about, looking over to the guy, trying to get him to look at me so I can be like, let's go. But nothing. This guy was ice cold, right? Focused, and we went over to the mat, and Flow Grappling came around with all their videographers and their cameras, and they were all taking pictures of this guy and taking videos.
This is a bad side. You got to be like, this isn't right.
I'm thinking, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And then he's down on his knees, he's praying to Jesus, and I always said, if you ever fight a guy that before the fight is on his knees praying to Jesus, you're fucked. Right?
Yeah, he's praying for your mercy on you. That's what it is. Yeah. That's the job.
So we went.
You gotta stop doing it, buddy.
We went in, man, and I done okay for the first, 40 seconds, and then he managed to. I went to take him down to foot sweep him, but he stood over. And then he foot sweeped me on the one leg that I was off, that was still on the ground. And then he got me down. He went. I'd watched his fights, and he does this knee on belly, where he puts his knee right into your rib, and he pulls you right into the knee. So he did that, but then I managed to turn and get away. Then he spun around and got right into the other rib, and I tapped, right? And I was like, and I remember coming off, my teammates like, you fucking tapped a knee on belly. Yeah. And I was
in your own weight division. It's a little embarrassing.
But then I had to come off. I remember I thought I'd broke my rib, and the medic's coming on, and the medic's like, let me carry you off. And I'm like, no, fucking, I'll walk off. This is fine. And then they took me, I had to go away and see the medics and stuff like that. And they were going to take me to a Portuguese hospital. And I'm like, no, it's fine, man. It's just a fucking neon belly, man. You know what I mean? But it was horrible, man. Absolutely horrible.
You got to stop doing it. Because the problem is, as you go up the belts, it gets worse. Because I used to do that, like, I used to compete at Blue Belt a lot, and I'd Google everyone and try and see if there's video, and even a photo. I'd be like, oh, look, he likes Tiger Draw. It's like, obviously. But, get to, like, brown and black belt, and I'd be, like, nervous, chatting to the missus, and I'd be like, oh, no, this guy, he's an MMA champion, he's done this, that, and the other. There's one day she's like, and you have? I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I didn't think about that. And I was like, I got to brown belt, and I was like, I can't ever do this again. I'm just going to turn up and fight who's in front of me and hope for the best. As long as I don't get hurt, it's a good day. But, you can't Google people anymore. Like, it's too depressing. No one's going to come out of me. I got smashed every comp. You're like, yes!
See, I usually do it because what I like to do is I usually, and I've done it a few times where I message my opponents, right? And just be like, I'm coming. And
you're a flirt. That's what that is.
Yeah, I'd always been successful with it because, and my thought behind any kind of combat sports, whether it be jiu-jitsu or MMA and stuff like that, and is if you annoy your opponent to the point where they're angry, right? Anger's an emotion, and you can't fight with emotion. This is my thought, right? Whether it works or not.
It's like Conor versus who's the guy who knocked out in 14 seconds? Aldo.
Aldo.
Got him angry. Yeah,
so he got him angry. So that's my thought. If I get my opponent angry, and I've been doing this since 2015, where I've just been messaging opponents like, I'm coming to get you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And because I'm only
if that was me getting that message, I'd laugh so much. I'd be like, I would think that's a big old chink in your armor. I gotta be honest.
But most of them do. I mean, we laugh about it. But me being 5'4", my opponents are all 6 feet plus, so I need every advantage I can get, and as I say, I've been successful. Apart from, I'd say this guy was ice cold, never spoke a word of English, so even me looking at him like, he would never have known what I was talking about.
The racism always comes out as well. You're always good, and then you get a Brazilian, you're like, oh no. He must be really good. He's Brazilian, he must be amazing. Definitely.
Well, Chris, it's been an absolute honour speaking to you.
Is this the longest one? Did I win?
You by the time we wrap it up, you will win.
Sammy's the best guest. That's what I'm taking. Black belt in podcasting.
So we did. I was telling Chris at the start of the podcast, or before the podcast came on, that the longest. Normally we keep it to about an hour, depending on how the conversation goes. I say some podcast calls can go on for hours.
They can be painful sometimes, though. There's some that should be cut for short. I listen to some podcasts, and the guy doesn't give any back. Doesn't give he's like, yeah, I think so. Yeah, and he's like, oh my god, you realise this is entertainment. What are you doing?
I've had a couple like that. I have had a couple.
Fighters are bad for it, man. Fighters are really bad for it. They can get on the mat, not nervous, get in a cage, not nervous. You put a microphone in front of them and they panic. I'm like, this should be so much easier than the things you do.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I'd say the longest I think podcast I've done so far was Scott Ramsey a few weeks ago. So we did about an hour and 47 minutes. So
I've won.
You're about to push into an hour and 48. So Chris is the...
Fuck you, Scott Ramsey. No way.
So Chris is the official longest podcast I think we've done so far. So now, a few places obviously you can get a hold of Chris. Chris obviously has got his YouTube channel, just Chris Fensom. So obviously
I have one just for jiu-jitsu. So Fensom Jiu-Jitsu. So I pretty much just use it for my classes. So what I do, you're not that many recently, obviously, but what I normally do is when I teach techniques in the classes, I'll film them and I stick it up on there. I also have another one I've done with my friend, which got loads more views than that, and it's Twins BJJ, and it's a bit like me and you. It's me with this midget, and we get a lot of. We kind of, it's like a fun instructional. We dick about while we teach him Imanari or whatever, and he drops his balls in my face and that kind of thing. And we it goes, he started hitting me with a belt, and yeah. So I don't know why I've got so many YouTube channels. The one you plugged is the only one I don't use, I think.
Well, the fact that we were talking about this earlier, and that was you did. There was some jiu-jitsu stuff on it, but then more recently has been go-karts and things like that. So
yeah, I built cars, so that's all random stuff on there.
And then looking at the Fensom Jiu-Jitsu one as well. So Fensom Jiu-Jitsu, again, just obviously breakdowns of, I mean, there we go. We've got scarf hold, straight arm lock, Americanas, fundamentals, wrist locks. So yeah, a lot of great videos on. There's quite a lot of videos as well. I think you have a number of videos on there. So Fensom Jiu-Jitsu, some great Jiu-Jitsu stuff. So definitely give that a look. Chris can be contacted on his Facebook as well. Anybody that has him on Facebook, Chris Fensom. Anywhere else people can contact you, Chris?
So I think I'm on Instagram, Chris Fensom BJJ. I put a few things on there. So yeah, I mean, main things, if you're looking for a announcer, so MC, commentator, or like a presenter or whatever for an MMA show, I could do that for you. I do it a little bit differently to most people. So, like if you want me to come and announce or whatever, I'll get there early. Most announcers won't. I'll talk to the fighters first. Most announcers won't. And then I'll put together a little video for you if you want, if you're a fight show, and like just previewing the main event, do like a technical breakdown, help you with the promotion. And then if you want to learn martial arts, I teach in Tame, which is in Oxfordshire. Also Can Do Martial Arts in Oxfordshire, and Elite Training Centre in Leighton Buzzard. 3 really good gyms. Any of those, just come along, jump in a class. I'm sure you'll love it. And then we've got Globetrotters camps to work for Globetrotters. So come along and join in a camp with Christian. And then anything else, just drop me a message. I'm always love chatting. As you can tell, an hour and 50 minutes later, I love just waffling away. So if anyone wants to chat, keep me company, just drop me a message.
Definitely. Listen, it's been an absolute honour, as I said.
And if you want to book a seminar, if you like my seminar idea and you want to, if you're like, come to my gym, just drop me a message and I'll put you on the little reserve list and get you one of the first gyms.
Definitely. So, but we'll definitely get you up to Scotland. As I
say, I love Scotland. I really do.
Listen, we'll get you. We'll travel around Scotland. We'll go to different places. As I say, we've got gyms all over Aberdeen, up north, Inverness. All the way down to Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee, and so on. As I said, I'll have you. It depends how long you come up for, Chris. As I said, I can have you working for forever.
You just don't want all my messages, my children coming with me. That's the problem. All these little hellions.
But yeah, no, that's definitely looking forward to hopefully get you up to Scotland. As I say, once we get rid of all this pandemic stuff. So. But yeah, listen, Chris, it's been an absolute honour. Anybody you want to shout out, thank?
Let me shout out all this. You always miss someone if you do this. And then like just going, thank everyone seems so like generic. But my fellow commentator on Battle Arena, Steve Brinkman, he's a great guy, great influence. Christian Globetrotters, James Price, Battle Arena promoter. Obviously my coaches, Roger Gracie, Kev Capel, Mauricio. Lots of other jiu-jitsu guys I train with. Dave Plested, Gavin Stewart, 10th Planet Banbury. All the guys at Can Do, all the guys at Elite Training Centre, all the guys in Tame that have hopefully still not listened to this after a hour and 52 minutes. You've nothing better to do with your lives. And then all my friends and all supporters. And then the main one, I know it's a bit cheesy, but my missus, because when we got married, I was still fighting pre-kids, and I had to be a selfish prick for a while because I would train jiu-jitsu 2-3 times a day, every day, and fight and be miserable in between because I was tired all the time. And she's been nothing but supportive. And like I wouldn't have any of this without her. She's the best influence in my life. So main one, my missus, and but everyone else, thank you very much.
Brilliant, perfect.
And thank you, Stuart. Sorry, thank you, mate. This is a brilliant podcast. And normally I don't want to blow some smoke at your ass for the last 30 seconds. Normally I don't listen to martial arts podcasts because I do it for a living, and it can be like overwhelming just to do it all the time. So normally I listen to car podcasts or the comedy ones or whatever. But I was like, you asked me to come on, so I was like, I want to listen to Chris Emmanuel as well, getting me on this podcast. Thank you very much.
But
I was like, I listen to the podcast, try it out a little bit, just listen to 10 minutes. And I ended up listening to 2 or 3 episodes all the way through because you've had great guests and they're really good at telling stories. And it's a lot more, you've kept it a lot lighter and more fun than the normal kind of dry, boring jiu-jitsu weekly death podcast where they're describing a position over. But you're listening in your car to someone describe how they put their arm through, and you're like, "What are you doing? This is not the way to teach." But brilliant podcast, mate.
No, listen, thank you very much.
And I want to come back on as well because I've got another 2 hours in me.
Well, do you know what? We whenever obviously you guys have got a battle arena, obviously I know that we'll be speaking to some of the fighters and things like that.
Yeah.
As and when they come on. So yeah, listen, more than happy to get you on, talk about the event and stuff like that. So any event that's coming up, I'd say it's not always about, well, it is about the fighters, but then it's about everybody else. Obviously, you mentioned you're going to be your very first TV presenting, so I want to hear about that. Do you know what I mean? I want to hear any nerves.
It's gonna go horribly wrong. I was gonna get fired first day out, but at least I went for it right. You gotta it's like getting flying armbarred in 3 seconds. I just go on there, stumble over my words, and then be asked to leave. But
no, we'll definitely have you on again. I'd say it's been an absolute honour. It's been an absolute, even though it's an hour 50 odd minutes, I'd say I've absolutely had so much fun as I normally do. But yeah, I'd say you've kept me laughing all the way through. So hopefully the viewers that are watching, as I say, they've been laughing just as much as me, Chris. So
at me or with me, that's the problem. As long as not at me. Oh, a little bit at me is all right. Cheers, buddy.
Thank you again, Chris. All right, and take it easy, buddy, and we'll speak to you soon, okay?
Perfect. Thanks, mate.
Take care.
Bye.